on one second. Give everybody just a minute. Hop on here. What's up, man? Good evening, everybody. You guys hear me okay? Some mic quality. Okay. All right. Big stepper. I feel you, man. Can't give up on the setup though. Setup is there. All right. It better go, dude. I'm telling you, Justin. All right. So we're not going to start with Baidu. But if you give me just a second. All right. Yeah, so and that's a good point, Big Step. One of my main strategies, one of the things that has made me so profitable in the past, and is the consistency with swing trading and my ability to hold certain contracts, knowing that they're still in trend, and then knowing that I too feel anxiety. I just like with anything, I'm just actively trying to negate, any potential losses. And that's why, live charting and stuff like that is so important. But one of the things that became really clear to me today is due to the volatility, especially with the stock, or just with stocks right now. And maybe you not even call it volatility, but you could even think, just choppiness. There's no clear breakout. It's not 2020, anymore, and we're not seeing that parabolic run. I'm sure it will come back, but it's not here now. We're seeing certain stocks run, but nothing is really caught its footing, if you will. So, but with that, excuse me. Let's see here. All right, so let's get started right now. So small caps, pretty much in general, those all pulled, kind of ran around 1.14%. The S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow all finished flat. So if we go look at SPY and we go look at the, let's see, go to the 60-minute. I hate when it does this. There we go. So if we go look at the daily chart on SPY, we basically gapped up and didn't really break the wick of yesterday's low. So if we go look at what that looks like, yesterday's open was right around here. We finished just a couple cents lower than that. And if we look at what is in trend right now, this is actually something we talked about over the weekend, but that trend was broken today with that gap up, and that is far more than a dark cloud cover. That is a gap up and a loss of more than 50%. So you could almost say that's an engulfment of what was a red day as well. So I mean, not looking super great on SPY. SPY may end up seeing a retest of around 417.50, 417.75. So definitely keeping an eye on that one. The Qs, however, this one actually, you could say that it showed some relative strength. It did have a really significant pullback. You go look at the hourly, just like SPY, kind of bouncing, does have the potential to make that double bottom. This line that you see, this white line, that is actually a previous support, broken, turned resistance, and then now support once again. And you can see right here, if I delete some of these lines, well, I'll hold that one. Yeah, we'll leave that one. So that candle today, that's where we ended up bouncing. So seeing something like a double bottom tomorrow would be exactly what needs to be seen. As far as the chart is concerned, you could call this a really ugly bull flag. I know that inflation took the wind out of the sails today, so we may be back on track tomorrow. If not, we're kind of in danger. We're in danger. But the 9-day moving average is currently going and looking as if it wants to go and back up that support as of tomorrow. So I do think that we could see a bounce there. In my opinion, and that's currently at 330.86, but more than likely that would move up to the 331.62 range. So we're either going to have a rebound day somewhere, climbing up to at least 50%, 335, 334.60. If we go down to the hourly time frame, we can see that it would be pretty pivotal that we bounce and break and hold above this line here, which is 333.75. So that's where I'd like to see the Qs bounce. One of the things that gives me the indication is a lot of the tech stocks holding up against the pullback. Even this shows relative strength. I mean, this right here, you never want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hourly candles work to just engulf one and not even really get there, and then immediately see a rejection. But they did show somewhat relative strength today. So, but that's just looking at the Qs. So looking at the Dow, funny enough, we talked about this gap on the Dow that needed to get filled. Well, that got filled, and now we are on our pull. In fact, you see the chart right here, or this projection. That projection was hit. However, the gap, and that's in fact where we finished today. If I adjust that just a tad. Yeah, something like that. You're on camera. So the gap right here is where we kind of finished the day after pulling back. We did gap up above that, and this is something that as a trader, now you never want to think like, if you look at the Dow here, it had a very relatively small gap. This right here even is a kind of a scary gap. But we held that 9-day moving average, which gives us the indication that we could see a move up. Why is my volume not on? Oh, it's the Dow. That being said, we saw a really big gap up 348 and then closing all the way down around 345. So that gap got filled, and then we pretty much we gapped above the gap and then filled the gap. So that's kind of what happened today. What we're going to be looking for tomorrow, and it doesn't really look good, I got to be honest with you. Anytime you see something like that, that's always kind of scary. So I think that a retest of 343, 343.40 would likely be where we would retest. That's the 9-day moving average on the daily. So got you. Yeah, short term bearish. I think long term we're still okay. You can see here that we have made higher highs. We did reject, same thing here. I mean, you can see if we throw a line up on the Dow, and this is just going to play into things like CAT, which has and pretty much looks exactly obviously it follows the Dow, but has that same setup there. So same thing right here. Not a lot of conviction though. Just kind of sketchy in my opinion. Apple had a lot of flow to the up and the downside. Justin, and just to break off, and the Dow, Apple follows the Dow occasionally. Excuse me. If you guys take a look at this support, this is the support going all the way back from basically the first support that was found after the Apple split, where we pretty much lost the entirety of all of those gains as investors' reality hit. This support line is currently where we're at now. I don't ever now a triple bottom would be very bearish or bullish, right? So you close tomorrow and push anywhere around 125, you're cooking with Crisco at that point. But anywhere underneath that, then we're playing with fire. So looking at this, I would imagine, and if you look at SPY, that if SPY pulls back, that would trigger that support, right? We don't want to see Apple even break down near that level. If we go and zoom in let's go here. Okay. So if I adjust my line just to be sure. Okay, so we have maybe 123.50 as the last tap, right? So that would be where I would look for a bounce, and I already have an alert set there. So that's definitely where I would be looking for a third and final bounce on Apple. This is going to be pretty pivotal going into this next week, because like I said, if SPY continues to pull back, and right now, I mean, we could go as far as that. Let's see, where did I put that mark on the daily? The 9-day moving average, which is all the way at 317.65. So we could see a pullback there. Definitely in the cards for sure. So let's see here. IWM. We watched this one today. About the only bullish index that we really I saw today. That was up, like I said, 114 or 1.14%. Relatively good volume. We definitely saw a lot of small cap movement, but I do not like how it finished on this 15-minute time frame. It chopped around like crazy at first, but the potential for Now, it may be a little bit too early to call that, but that is potentially what we could see if we don't get another bounce. You can see here in aftermarket, we're already getting a pullback, and more than likely, if we end up hitting anywhere below 227, then I would imagine we would see this gap get filled and this retest. So tomorrow is looking kind of bearish, and that's not what like Apple needs, you know, looking at that kind of stuff. But obviously this is IWM, but just in general, most of these ETFs are looking relatively bearish. So real estate rallied 1.7%, followed by basic materials at 1.4%. Healthcare cratered a 1.6%. Crypto quiet. If you guys haven't seen any of my crypto predictions or charts, currently well within trend. I don't know what most of TikTok is talking about in all those other social media sites, but I don't even know if we're going to end up, I might have been wrong in the sense where we have this kind of like bearish triangle here. I mean, we're definitely holding this support. I figured we would see at least a run up to 41, get people's juices flowing, and then potentially see a pretty quick flash crash. But that's for crypto. Ethereum, oops. I know we don't really trade crypto like that, but Ethereum daily time frame here, you can see has that bilateral pattern. This one can go either way, watching that one above 2740 and then below 2470 is where I'm watching Ethereum potentially. It's going for its third bounce of support. So crypto is important to keep track of, does influence the market. So I could just absolutely shit myself. Fucking AMC ripped in after hours. Just looking at some of the meme stocks, absolutely fucking sends it. Exactly. In fact, blew past most of our price targets, me and Atlas. So that one, I expect 40s at this point. Looking at the momentum, but I imagine tomorrow we will see same thing, probably a whole lot of dumpage. I don't want to get caught in something like this, so if you're not in, you need to wait for one of these substantial pullbacks and wait for it to start kind of trading flat. So oh wow, I wish I would have saw that earlier. I would have definitely I would have definitely swung. Yeah, I'll check out that one. One second. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Okay. Anyway, so okay, so GameStop. That one moved up slightly in after hours. Seems like the momentum has shifted really. Yeah, so game up 12%, and after hours even more. Apparently we have some more hacker information coming out later tonight. I'll post that. American Express broke out apparently today, advancing almost 2%. Definitely really bullish setup there on the daily. I didn't have a chance to look at this one until today, but they had a stock that is up nearly 140% from its low. So it's actually looking like it needs to pull back at some point. But that made the news today. Zoom, I didn't catch the earnings. I know that they had decent earnings, but I think that it's worth looking at the chart. So you're in luck with this one in the sense where it is actually holding its resistance in after hours. So it didn't make a new high and didn't make a new low. Weird. Okay. So right around 345, I think that tomorrow, if it doesn't gap up, I think a gap up would give us a decent indication. If it does gap up above resistance, don't take it until you see a retest. That retest would likely come around that 344, 345 level. So if we gap up above that, usually on earnings you would see some type of move. So I'm setting alert at 345, 35. So that's it for the closing print. Sorry, that kind of took a long time. Earnings, we already took a look at Zoom. That was really the only notable one. Oil, obviously still moving up. We saw a lot of decent movement in BP. And for the most part, that's all I really got. Let's see here. Yeah, manufacturing snags way on stocks today. OPEC optimism has boosted oil. That's why we've seen that. 1/5 of the U.S. beef production is wiped out in the wake of the JBS hack. So that's one of the hacks that we were referring to previously. So yeah, we're about to go over any stocks if you guys have any requests. AI. Oh, you know what? That's right. AI did have earnings. Wait, do they have earnings that says June 2nd? Did that happen today? Deepen. That one's making a nice cup. I would imagine you would get a handle somewhere around here. I'm not sure. So if they're June 2nd, more than likely, I would imagine it has a good setup for that cup and handle on the hourly. This one has taken a freaking beating. So any type of good news. I was thinking about playing. You're thinking about playing the earnings. So I can advise you as far as any type of technicals. There's probably somebody in the chat who knows a little bit more about the company. I mean, the only thing I can say is it's seen a drastic amount of downside. So that being said, losing 180s and being all the way down to the 60s, it's definitely due for a bounce back. It definitely has that look where it could potentially do so. The 9-day moving average is creeping up at 66.25. So more than likely, if you see that handle start to form, then in my opinion, I'm not looking at the option chain. Got a moth in my room. If looking at the option chain, if we see Well, you could stagger it or strangle it, so you could stay right outside the money, go out a little bit further. Obviously, you don't want to get IV crush, so you're wanting to capture the movement. But you could go right outside of the money and strangle it, or you could pick a support to the upside, like 80, 82, and then find something to the downside that looks like a reasonable support, like somewhere around 60. And make sure you're long out. But if it's fundamentally strong, if you have a bias on it, then maybe just go, put a little bit more to the upside. I don't ever recommend playing earnings, so, but that's completely up to you as long as you go into it protected. So, okay, so here's the deal with Roblox. We've seen a divergence from the Qs, right? This is what we look like. I'm just going to keep it straight up with you guys because you guys know that we're swinging this. One of two things are going to happen here. We gap up. We should see the bull run, right? We should see and I don't want to put a super outlandish price target on this. And maybe I could move this down a little bit. But if it pulls back, then I for sure have an idea. I think the 50-day moving average. A lot of times these rising wedges can be bearish, or excuse me, not rising wedges, like these rising megaphone patterns. But if we break this line here, this is all coiled up. This doesn't look very bearish to me. Decent volume today, even compared to you can see the low here where we kind of consolidate. In my opinion, I think the price target of around 102. I think 100, then you get the buyers, retail stepping in, chasing, and then you'll have people starting to take profit from there. We'll have to kind of evaluate it. But in my opinion, there's a couple pretty obvious price targets that we can watch out for. We wicked one of them today, that $98 level. That's kind of one that I would be looking at. If we go here at last in what would be the wick fill, and that one is at 99. So either one of those resistances get broken. I want to see some separation, so I'd like to see some. I know this sounds crazy, but I'd like to see some type of move. We moved in one day on Roblox. We went from 87 all the way to 97, so it made a $10 move. So it's not outlandish to think that our contracts that we're holding, the 110s and 115s, aren't going to start getting bought up around 95. That's, or excuse me, not 95, but around that $99, $100 break. So when it breaks 100, you'll start to see a lot of IV push those contracts, and that's where we're going to be looking to take profit. If not, then this will likely pull back down, and this pattern is done forming, and more than likely we'll see a pullback. So let's see here. 2.1 billion award. Wow, that's crazy. So real quick, just going into that cyber attack, there are signs that closures caused by a cyber attack on JBS are spreading. The meat producers' 5 biggest plants in the U.S., which altogether handle 25.5K cattle a day, have halted processing, wiping out nearly a fifth of the country's production. Slaughter and operation across Australia were down, according to a trade group, and one of Canada's largest facilities was idled for a second day. While the big plant closures usually send meat prices soaring, they were a mystery. Let's see here. Interesting. Anyway, that's my price target, and what I'm looking at tomorrow for Roblox. I want to see a gap up, flat out. I already have alerts set here on everything, so all right. Okay, so we got Roblox, FRBK. Looks like this is pre-market, maybe. Yeah, that's pre-market movement. Not super liquid, yeah. But that's my rough estimate on what that. So that does look like a potential bullish break. You've got room to run past 426. I don't know anything about these guys as far as financials, stuff like that. They have just had earnings on April 22nd. That's the latest news that we see. So one of two things here. You're either going to get this rejection here, and that is the 420 rejection. Excuse me. 420 rejection there. So if we end up getting a rejection at 420, then this could end up playing out as a head and shoulders, which obviously if you're bullish, that's not good, but that would take it likely back down to support, which we draw kind of a proxy path here. If we did end up rejecting there, this would be our neckline, or this would be our neckline here. So more than likely we would see a drop back down to the 350 level. So but you have this decent little falling wedge there. So we just need to see 420 get broken. And you should see some continuation there. But the daily setup looks decent. All right. We got Roblox. We'll take a look at Apple. It's rough. Okay, so I just want to double check on Apple. So that's the triple bottom potential there. So I'm going to set an alert on all of these EMAs here. 50-day and 20-day. Cool. PNC. Oops. Okay. Bad. Okay, so this appears to be so far bullish. You have what's a decent breakout and then just a nice retest. So looks really good actually. Nice hourly, or that's actually the 2 hour. Yeah, we'll just keep the 2 hour up. It looks good. The nice bullish engulfment here, bouncing off that 9-day moving average. It looks like it's creeping up. Decent volume, but you'd like to see a little bit more. You had decent volume kind of in this pattern here, and it might have just been people loading up for the next run. But it looks good. You get a breakout, gap down, pullback. So more than likely you'll see, let's see how we end on the daily. So if you might see just like a run up around 197. I mean, you'd like to see a break above that, of course. But like I said, that hourly close right there, that shows a little bit of strength holding that 9-day moving average. So you may see a little bit of a gap up somewhere, like I said, 197. Then you're going to have to struggle and hold that that 197.80, 85 level. But it looks decent. Now, the one thing I will warn is these are bilateral patterns, so this could be a fake out. If it's a fake out, then obviously you would wait for like a candle close below 195, 194 level, and that would kind of give you an indication. There you would go and hit for the third time on support. So okay, let's go with, so this one along with Neo, man, sometimes it hurts to be right and then wrong. It's wrongly right. You take the trade and then you cut the trade and then it keeps going. But okay, so looking at this projection, obviously hit, not that one, but so really nice trend, I gotta say, and delivery numbers were great. Of course, lost second. Thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. So with this one on XPVE, I'm bullish on the EV sector. I think that we could see a nice rebound. We are getting back to that kind of like, all right, it looks like we might end up getting a pullback here shortly. And we've seen a cruise. What are we at? 34.50, not too far from 35. If you see here, the 9-day moving average is perfectly lined up with our support, right? That tells me that if we will stay in trend, but on the next pullback, we'll likely see a bullish bounce, which would be the best opportunity to go long. You still have quite a bit of time, obviously, until any type of new earnings report is coming out. You have this massive downtrend that has been broken over the last week. Oh, thanks, Dim. Yeah, if you guys like this video, leave a like. Thanks, Dim. But so anytime I see the 9-day moving average kind of holding up a support level, that gives me an indication that we're going to stay in trend. That's bullish in my opinion. So looking at some resistance, so let's go see where our more than likely where we would see a pullback. So this level right here stands out to me, and that's actually 39. Let's see, it's at another level. You know what we'll do? Well, where's the 6-day moving average? Perfect. So look at the 6-day moving average. They almost, if you were to draw like color code and make a ribbon in that, like the whole ribbon indicator, you would actually find that is very, very bullish sign. That's exactly what we want to see. Good volume as well. Let's see here. So 36. That's actually a reasonable target, I think, for Neo. You know, so you could end up seeing even a gap up. If you saw a gap up, that would definitely be an indication of a pullback, and that would just scare the shit out of new investors. But then you would end up kind of consolidating here in this little this tip here. So it may not even be as drastic as a pullback. You may even see it make that new high, right? So break up and then end up like getting shorted and pull back, right? And then we could see it bounce off support, where more than likely these moving averages will be there. So that's just a rough projection, but that's something that we could potentially see coming out of XPVE. And they do have a good catalyst to continue moving forward. So I like them. Neo is right there with, Neo, oh fuck, man. We got faked out on Neo today. These candles here, I saw everything else pulling back, and really I should have been watching the hourly time frame a little bit more closely, but I wasn't monitoring that trade. But we definitely saw some strong movement from Neo today. This one, same story, breaking out of this really nice falling wedge. Moving averages are creeping up here. If we draw our support, we have a couple different supports coming off of this. So we could be in for some serious chop too. Look in my face. Oh man, that's something. So big step. Oh, man, it like irks me a little bit because you have to stay fluid, right, in the market, and it does ask you and require you to change your style, right? Whenever you're going through a style change, or especially if the market is determining that, the number one thing is you should just be not trading as much until your trading style becomes or shows you see better opportunities to utilize that trading style. Because if that's the one that you're good at, now if you want to get better and be able to trade fluidly, that is kind of what is required. And so through that, I started scalping a lot more. And I mean, to some extent, I've been quite successful in that, but this is just essentially, and I'm obviously human, capable of mistakes quite often. But had I gone with my strategies, right, my original, and I think I got wrapped up in that scalping mindset with still having, or the scalping technicals, but having that long-term mindset. So, okay, I see this move playing out and then I watch it happen. Because at the end of the day, what I should be doing, what I usually do, is I wait towards the end of the day and then I end up buying contracts and then swinging them, right, with a projected target over multitude of weeks, days, and with that, like new, right, I had no idea that new core was going to do what it did today, but it had a really great setup on the daily. Of course, that correlated with the news that came out about it. Incredible volume. This one could see something crazy, guys. New core is on my list, and not the shit one. This one, just crazy. But I entered long, right? My instinct was like, all right, well, let me get this one, looks good. Oh, thanks, man. But this one, we ended up taking those 110 calls for June 25th, because here's what I'm prepared to do. Now we're in the money, right? So not a terrible idea to take profit. I have till June 25th. With this type of volume and this type of momentum, all signs point north. But the stock has to go down. The stock will end up having to settle. Looking at the setup that we have now, way too early to tell. But there is the potential for some type of flag, right? Moving averages here, kind of flattening out. And like I said, this is how I started trading. I said this before, like kind of intuitively. And so like I anticipate certain types of moves, playing out. And so, with, not that one, with the 9 and the 6-day moving average, I would anticipate a pullback into them, and then likely some type of, chopping around here, and then just another move out. If I wanted to, I could use weeklies and play this to the downside and say, okay, the 9-day moving average is sitting at 109, and then figure out if it's even worth it. But at the same time, I don't have to worry. Even if it did pull back to the 9, I still have every opportunity in the world to take profit. So you're paying for extra protection. If you're I don't know, if you have the money, maybe this is a terrible example, but you have the money and you can buy your teenager a car that is incredibly safe. Like you're probably going to spend the money to do so to keep them safe because they don't know what they're doing or they just started learning. So if you don't have the know-how to pull the trigger on certain things, then pay for the extra protection because it's worth it. And then you feel safer entering contracts that expire and weeklies. Yeah, gotta say, alerts are pivotal. We'll have to see where new is at in the morning. I'm gonna set alert here. It could gap up. I mean, what a move today. I man, it is what it is. Huh. But anyway, that's a rant over. Anyway, we'll be watching New Core since I brought that up. All right, here. So, what are we watching? Besides that, Jamia. That one. Sorry, guys, my throat. This one looks like it's trading in a channel. Maybe a little bit early to pull the trigger on that, but looks like it's got a little bit of a channel here. I could even, if I wanted to, kind of hand draw a linear deviation line, which seems to be well respected. That's facts. Boom. I wish they had standard deviation channels like so this one shows you where it's bouncing off of on the deviation. Interesting. Anyway, so Jamia made a really strong move up today. One that I wasn't able to get a hold of. Oh, thanks, Deepan. That's really nice. I appreciate that. That's really nice. So with Jamia, I think going into, I think that we have a nice uptrend here, but we're going to continue to channel trade. So more than likely, there's a good chance we could break this channel and use it as support, then continue up. Right now, we're kind of hitting this choppy zone right here. Right, so we're kind of within that zone where we might end up seeing a little bit of chop. But really nice push, decent volume as well. So in my opinion, one of two things are going to happen here. I love Jamia. I really want to go long on it, guys. Maybe this is a bias. Maybe I need to shake it off, but I still feel a bit of weariness, right? To to taking the same type of long positions that I did in June or August, anytime like that, where I could see things moving. Okay, where are we at? And now, like my theory of the great shakeout, like I've talked about before, it just feels more real. But we'll see. So anyway, break above here, could see a little bit of consolidation in this area. If not, then I imagine that we will likely trend back down. The moving averages right here will likely flatten out. And then we will continue to likely move to the downside there. So kind of chop around that channel, but it's not a bad channel to trade in. So whenever it hits support, we'll wait for a nice little blast off. So if it ends the day with a weakness, right, with low volume, we could potentially swing a risky call. So we'll set alerts, set an alert on that trend line. That's my homeless person standard deviation, not too shabby. There we go. All right. I see you guys talking about BYND. Good. Oh man, I call that Head and Shoulders. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I saw that Head and Shoulders. Yeah, man, I knew that thing wasn't gonna hold up too much longer. I tell you what, though, it's got some freaking gaps to fill. I tell you what. We'll look at the 2-hour gap. Wow, these are almost like levels. They're perfect. Look at they're perfectly symmetrical. And you can see they're almost like on the graph lines. This one looks really, really bad. I think it ripped too hard, too fast. Remember this in the future. Institutions with big fat pockets are happy taking profit at 20%. So if you see a stock move like that, keep an eye on how far it's moved, in the last couple of days, weeks. 36%, right? That's where you're going to see people starting to take profits. And it went perfectly with all of the news articles, didn't it? It's funny how that works. This one looks like it might go for another gap fill. I'm going to set an alert at 132. Well, I'll set one at 133. 21. 130. Fuck. Sorry. 134 is fine. And we'll set alert there. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Alright, what else do we got here? Alright. Of course, I gotta talk about it, guys. So, where the hell is Baidu, and why the hell can't we get our little grubby hands around it? Let me get for some reason, all of my EMAs have disappeared. That's not cool. Interesting. I must have deleted those on accident. Yeah, that's about right. Sorry. So squinting at my screen. All right, perfect. So looks like we held that 50-day EMA there. 131.65 is where we would take Baidu short, or BYND, excuse me. I just saw that now that I put my EMAs back on. Okay, so Baidu. I wish I would have swung this shit, but we were 3 or 4 days too early on this swing trade. It really cuddled up underneath that 200-day EMA, and then today we saw a substantial gap up. I have to, like I reiterated earlier, got to learn to back away from those gap ups. Either one or two things. You either let it do its thing, right? Don't get FOMO. If you swung in, know that the bigger the gap, the more likely it's going to fall. Write that down, put it on the wall, whatever you got to do. That it would be one of my main, my advice to anybody. If you get a big gap up, unless you're a scalper, unless you're scalping with Manny in the morning, I just don't recommend. The gapping goes for 1%, 2% gaps depending on the stock. That's all right. But anything like this on Baidu, you either have to make a bet that you're going to pull back to your 9-day moving average, or you're just going to have to put price targets on it, levels on it. But it's a little bit riskier. This is not a great trading day. Doesn't look great. The first initial wick was wonderful, and that was about it. Made a new high, pulled right back. It looks great for continuation. Built up in this little pennant here. It has a gap underneath it. I do have an alert set at, let's see, where we got that set at, 199 on the dot. So break back below 200. And that's the thing, is I'm gonna actually set an alert here on the 20-day EMA on the 15-minute as well. And that's where I would likely take some type of short position on Baidu if it doesn't end up moving to the upside. So God, I gotta fix that alarm. So this one on the daily, crazy movement, really pent up against that 200-day. The little tri-star type pattern here with the 3 dojis in a row, that's kind of some of those days where we've really tough trading, really tough trading. And I've received some criticism from some people, and I'm welcome to it. That I trade the same stocks too often. And I was like, that's fine. I think my strategy for trading the same stock may have failed me. But all in all, I think it's really important to trade stocks, or at least monitor stocks through times like this, because they say when a stock is forgotten about, when it's sitting flat and nobody gives a shit about it, that's exactly when you should buy. And that's exactly what I think we're going to see here. I think we're going to see, if you blink, you're going to miss it. How many times have we looked away from a stock and it's moved $10 or something ridiculous, and we're like, and it's like, I didn't expect that to happen. And a lot of times it's when you forget about it. And that's exactly kind of what happens here. So I want to be in this trade because I haven't caught in wind of too much, right? We still have some buyers. We have long-term investors in this. Otherwise than that, I haven't seen much. And if we look at, let's see, where's VWAP? So we ended the day on VWAP. If we go to the hourly here, ended the day above VWAP, and we do have a potential 6-day moving average crossover, 9-day moving average crossover over VWAP. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're hoping for. And that would move this to the upside. And my price target, guys, looking at the daily time frame, it just can't go any lower at this point. I do think that the first price target is 206. And I could even, let's see. So that's June 2nd. So I would say 206 on the dot would be my first target for Baidu. And then from there, you could potentially see a run to 208. After that, I would lay off it until you can potentially prepare for a swing trade. Or when we break resistance, now it would make a whole lot of sense for us to scream up, right? You know how Baidu does, and then pull back to this resistance for a retest. Or finish the day, gap down, fill the gap above us for same retest. So I'm always looking to average down on that retest. That retest is where I want to take it longer, take it out to 220s, and maybe even take a leap out on it, right? We can go out to the end of the year, find something relatively cheap, that the risk to reward is relatively high, and something that we could potentially trade our way out of, whether that goes up or down. So, set alerts. I think what I'd do, if you blink, you'll miss it, for real. All right. Till ready to do today. Inverted hammer last week. That's never a good sign. It held the 200-day moving average. What is CGC doing? Not good. That's not good. That held the 6, but that more than likely is going back down to the 20 range, $21 range, if it doesn't have hold this area. GRWG, where did we finish there? So GRWG ended up rejecting hard. So this one may not. This may have been a market maker fake out. That's one of the reasons why we didn't end up taking it today. Still like to see it move somewhat in that direction, but we'll see if it ends up going and getting a retest here first. So. I love Hey Baidu too, man. BA. Look at, oh my god, what a mess. Great day. This is just how BA moves. Track it. So what is the most important thing on Baidu or on Boeing? To actively chart it every single day before the end of day. And there you go. That'll let you know how much cleaner can we ask for, like as far as a breakout. It doesn't get much better than that. And you have these beautiful flags that set you up to move higher. This could extend itself, but so I think that going long on this, that what a great hold, you know, for the day. Looks up 3. So for the week, it looks like we're up 3%, or 3%. I think we still have a decent amount to go. Yeah, I would see 270 potentially if the Dow can get its act together. All right, guys. Any questions? AMD is another one that I talked about today. That one ended up running and then dumping. Stupid. That one made an inverted hammer on top of support, so that one has a gap to fill below it. We may see Baidu or AMD end up filling that gap to 80. If that happens, then more than likely we'll see a little bit more than that, but what a disappointment. Let's see where support is. Perfect. That's exactly what we need to find. Alright, so AMD. So I would imagine a fill on that gap. Depends on what the semiconductor sector is looking like. If Nvidia ends up seeing a pullback, those stocks like that. So yeesh, that doesn't look good. All right, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off, get ready to get some rest, prepare for tomorrow. So I will talk to you guys in the morning. We will be on at 8:30. If you guys know anybody that would like to see this breakdown or anything like that, make sure to reshare it. If you liked it or got any information from it, make sure to leave a like. I do appreciate it. The channel appreciates it. But I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. So my bedtime alarm.